Offensively, there is legitimate concern. Having watched Tommy Rees on a week-to-week basis, we can pull up in random stats. We can sit here and be an apologist for him now that he's at Alabama and be like, Nick's going to get him right. Nick's going to help him figure it out. Watch him start calling plays, and you're going to start to realize where the frustration was for Notre Dame fans.
And this is coming from you, who's an avid Notre Dame fan, an avid Notre Dame watcher. I mean, like,
and a supporter of Tommy Rees, an apologist for Tommy Rees because he was a former Notre Dame starting quarterback for multiple seasons.
Right.
Like, the quarterback situation is also very complex. It is very uneasy. As much as there's concern on the offensive side of the football, Blake, and even if they have one of the worst years offensively in Nick Saban's time as a head coach, I can't sit here and say that this team doesn't win 10 games. I can't. I look at what the talent that they bring to the defensive side of the football with Dallas Turner, with Kool-Aid McKinstry, with Chris Braswell, and then all of the young recruits that they brought in, some that might play, and also guys that we haven't even talked about from
like I think Caleb Downs is going to play. Like I think the 5-star safety Caleb Downs, I think he's going to play right away. Personally,
I think he's going to be a dog too, and I think he's going to be highly impactful. DBs under Saban can get on the field early and make an impact. They're really freaking good. The defensive side of the football is going to carry this team. And I look at the schedule. Saban is too good of a head coach and has been around too long. And as much as we like to joke on here that he has lost it a little bit, we'd like to make that comment. We like to throw that out in jest. Their 3 hardest games are Texas, Tennessee, and LSU. They're not losing to Texas, and Tennessee and LSU are a toss-up on both sides. Probably going to lose to LSU. But I don't think that Tennessee is a foregone loss. They're not going to go less than 10-2, Blake. They're not. They're just not.
All right. So here's the thing for me. Okay. You get rid of Bill O'Brien. Bryce Young isn't there. You bring in Tyler Buckner. You got Jalen Milroe. Whoever wins that position, look, we could sit here for days and argue, is it going to be Buckner or is it going to be Milroe? I agree that they're getting back to what you're ultimately trying to say is back to the old school Nick Saban way of playing really good defense and running the football. I don't think Tommy Rees is an upgrade from Bill O'Brien.
It's a massive downgrade.
I think it's a massive downgrade. So here's what we heard all offseason last year, right? When Marcus Freeman kept Tommy Rees, and I mean, he kind of had to, but Tommy Rees stayed as the offensive coordinator. You want to know what I heard from Notre Dame fans? Oh, well, Blake, Brian Kelly isn't there anymore to dictate what he does offensively, right? Well, nothing changed. It actually got worse.
Yeah.
His play calling got worse in critical situations regardless of quarterback. Like him throwing the ball on 3rd and 7 against Syracuse, I think it was Syracuse as an example, and luckily Drew Pine – pulled it when he wasn't supposed to, gets a first down, and everybody's like, oh, okay. He had some issues last year offensively. It's not those games that I worried about. Like I went back and watched because LSU got Andrew Sam, the safety from Marshall. I just went back and watched the Notre Dame Marshall game because that was his best overall game. And listen, Joe, I'm sitting there during halfway through the game, and I'm like, what is he doing? Like, what is he? I don't even know what Tommy Rees is trying to accomplish. Right? Like they're blitzing the safeties off the edge. They're stuffing the box. They're forcing you to throw the football. He doesn't adjust. Maybe because Tyler Buckner couldn't throw the ball at a high clip. But the problem with that is Buckner's now at Alabama and could potentially be the starter. Now, I think Nick will pull the string on him quicker than what they did a year ago. I agree with you. I think they got some question marks offensively because when I look at them now, can Proctor start, the talented freshman out of Iowa, even though they got Elijah Pritchett that's there? They have some interesting offensive line, maybe. I don't want to say issues, but you got Tyler Buckner, I think, was going to start at guard. J.C. Latham's probably going to start at right tackle. They got some more things offensively that we got to talk about. Just because Proctor's there does not mean they're going to be good. I think they got question marks along the offensive line. And, Joe, here's the biggest question. Even though I think that Justice Hayes, the true freshman running back, and look, everybody in Alabama is talking about, and when they talk about a true freshman, usually they don't miss when it's that high of a.
Especially a running back too. Like it takes a lot to crack the starting lineup as a running back at Alabama.
And look, one thing you got to give Saban, he's had a crap load of really good running backs on his teams before. Even though Alvin Kamara transferred, I mean, he's got Trent Richardson, Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Jamar Gibbs, who went in the first round in this past draft. The problem with me is even though they don't have or know who their starting quarterback is, I still don't think or believe that they have the weapons on the outside offensively to execute. Now, they go out and get the 5-star wide receiver in recruiting in Jalen Hale. He's going to have to perform. Okay. I think that some of these freshmen are going to have to step up and play. Like I think Keon Keeley is going to have to probably try to take the role of Will Anderson. But just because he's taking the role as a true freshman does not mean he's going to come in here and dominate. Justice Hayes, we talked about. Desmond Ricks is another one. James Smith, the defensive lineman. Saban doesn't really play a lot of true freshman defensive linemen. But I think Jalen Hale, when I look at it from the offensive side of things, because, look, Alabama still has running backs. They still have Jace McClellan. You got Rodale Williams. You have Jam Miller that some people have talked about. You have a deeper running back room where on the outside, I don't know who you have really that can stand up. That's what their issues were a lot last year when Bryce Young was trying to do things. Name his top receiver. Name his top receiver.
It was Jahmyr Gibbs was his top receiver.
That was his top receiver as they're coming out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that they're going to have to double down defensively and be better defensively to win 10 games. They're going to have to play staunch defense. They're going to have to run the football. And look, they might be able to do it. I think Saban is in his element when they are running the football and playing good defense, play action, getting the ball down the field. All of that's fine and dandy. I agree with you that they have a crap load of talent, a crap load of pieces. Very likely that they're going to win 10 games. That's not their standard. Their standard is getting to the SEC championship game. Their standard is winning the SEC West, or their standard is winning the SEC. I don't think they have the dude at quarterback to do it. Now, there's one outlier here that I will digress from. If Jalen Milroe can just be somewhat accurate, like medium to above average, him running the football, they're going to be dangerous. Because when you have a guy that can run the football like he can, I said this last year with Jaden Daniels, okay? Because when you have a running game like that and can play the defense that they can and control the game, man, Jalen Milroe scares me more than anybody on that roster. Let me tell you why. Because he might be the best athlete on the field at any given moment. Joe, he's going to run a 4.340. Like we already know that at 235, 240 pounds that he's been on a clock time. Not on clock, on electronic time. And he's running the 4.3s. You get that kid out in space. If he can just be medium to average, I think they could do some really good things. That's me.
But here's my only problem with Milroe, though, is like we saw enough of Milroe, and like I get the same argument could be made for Tyler Buckner. We saw enough of Milroe where like they almost lost the Texas A&M game because of him. Like
yeah, but Joe, that's different. That's different, though.
But is it like we don't have any evidence to show that he has what it takes to just be a passer? Like, yeah, he's a great athlete. He's a really good athlete. It's him and Tyler. The ironic thing is that they went and brought in Tyler Buckner, who's the same freaking guy, basically.
Can I tell you the truth?
Yeah.
In college football, a guy that can run the football at that position can take over games.
But if you can't throw the ball, but here's the thing though, with Tyler Buckner, not a 4.3 athlete, is a really good runner, and he was impactful as a sub-package runner when Jack Cohn was there. But once he fully took over, the Marshall game was perfect example. It took a G5 team to just load the box and blitz like hell, and because he couldn't throw consistently and make decisions, they were effed offensively.
Yeah, but that's a different animal because
I
Milroe's
feel
a
like
different animal than Buckner is.
I think Buckner's a slightly better passer than Milroe.
True,
Milroe's the better athlete, Buckner's the better thrower, but collectively they both suck.
but Milroe's a better decision maker.
Is he though?
By a long shot. Joe, we saw Buckner have 300. Everybody freaked out about Buckner because he had a good game against a depleted South Carolina. My dude threw 3 interceptions and was throwing balls in a triple coverage.
The decision making sucked, but I think it's actually a pretty good example that how impactful he is as a runner. Like he won that.
Joe, are you going to really sit up here and say Buckner's not as a better athlete than Milroe? Because you're wrong there.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
But like, if you can beat South Carolina throwing 3 interceptions and running the ball the way that he did at Notre Dame, I mean, imagine what maybe Tommy can kind of figure out with him as the starting quarterback.
He can't do that in the SEC West.
I know he can't throw for 3 interceptions, but maybe if you figure out an offensive game plan that serves to his skill set,
he can't. No, here's the thing. He might be able to do that against South Carolina. Okay, when you have a month to prepare, he can't do that in the SEC week to week. He's not going to be able to run like that. I'm telling you.
He can't do that against LSU or Tennessee, but like I think that the rest of the schedule they can.
Well, you know who he can't do it against either, and I know we talked about him a couple days ago. He can't do it against Florida. He ain't going to be able to do it against A&M. He can't do it against LSU or Tennessee, as you mentioned. Here's the truth. You ready for the truth? He can't do it against Arkansas. I promise you. As much as we poo-poo on Arkansas.
Yeah, okay.
He can't. Here's the difference. Milroe can. Now, I get.
But wait, again, this is where like I'm hung up. Is like, are we just assuming that a 4.3 athleticism is enough to win them football games if he can't accurately complete a pass?
He's taking leaps throwing the football, in my opinion. You didn't see the kid in high school like I did.
Is he? He's not a Louisiana guy, is he?
He's from Texas, like Dallas, somewhere around Dallas, I think.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Got it.
Regardless, here's the ultimate thing, though. Regardless on what whoever's right on the argument that we just had or the discussion that me and you just had on those 2 quarterbacks, it doesn't matter. They're not dynamic enough, in my opinion, to win the West. They're not dynamic enough to win the SEC because you know who neither one. Let me just tell you something. If you thought Bo Nix got his ass clapped against Georgia week 1 last year against Oregon, what do you think is going to happen to Tyler Buckner against Georgia? God willing, let's say they both get to the SEC championship game. Okay. What do you think Georgia's going to do to them?
It's a great point. Well, unless I'm misremembering, they don't play Georgia on their schedule.
That's what I'm saying. That's why the only time they would play would be in the SEC championship game. And if you think that Alabama is dynamic enough offensively at that position to really scare anybody, Joe, like I've told you, Alabama does not scare me at all. Like, at all. Offensively. Defensively, yes, they do. Offensively, please, God, Jesus, please, sweet baby Jesus above, start Tyler Buckner. That's what everybody in the SEC is saying. Please, sweet Jesus.
But here's my whole thing, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. This might be a team that is one of the worst offensive teams in Saban's tenure. But there have been multiple years where Alabama has had bad quarterback play, and
they've never
won a national championship.
No, that's hold
Jake Coker and Blake Sims.
Jake Coker
not that
3,500 yards and 25 plus touchdowns.
But my point is they found it. But they found wait. He was not a good quarterback, but they found ways to succeed.
Don't you dare come on this show and say a guy throwing for 3,500 yards and 25 plus touchdowns.
That's not my point.
Quarterback play.
That's not my point. My point is that
they will have to have. I know what Josh Pate says. I know what Cole says. They're going to have better overall quarterback play than just average. You know why? Because their offensive line is not good enough. They're not good enough.
It's going to be better than it was last year. A lot of the guys that they
you
lost.
Want to bet? Do you want to bet?
Their offensive line was not good last year. It was not.
And you think that they're better?
they have a lot of young guys coming in, and on top of it, they had young guys on that
they
line.
had 4 dudes that got drafted, and you want to tell me with sophomores and freshmen that they're better? Have you ever seen Proctor go up against an SEC left tackle?
I haven't, but I know that last year's group with upperclassmen, they were good.
He's a half a Popeye's biscuit away to being moved into guard. The dude's lower half is not fast enough for him to play right tackle, and you know that. That's why you won't put him.
Latham is going to be playing left tackle, and he should be playing left tackle.
But my point is, they are going to have in today's day and age. Everybody talked about Georgia, and Georgia can do it. You're not Georgia. Snowflakes. You're not Georgia.
The point I was trying to make with the quarterback comment is that as a quarterback, Coker and Sims were not physically the best quarterbacks that they've had. They're average to below average quality quarterbacks, but they got them to play. They got them to play at an average to slightly above average level because everything else worked around them. They ran the ball effectively, and they got back to that. They're not going to run the Bill O'Brien scheme. They're not. They're going to run the hell out of the football like Tommy Rees did. This is my whole point. As much as I want to sit here and shit on Tommy Rees and how much I don't like him and how much I think Tyler Buchner sucks, I still think, and as we talked about when they hired Tommy Rees might get this run game going and he might get it cooking. He did it with Audric Estime.
They were already running the ball for 190 yards per game. Joe, they ran the ball for 190 yards per game, and they had the number 1 overall pick, and everybody wants to say offensively they sucked.
Blake,
let me ask you this. If I came to you and said a team scores 40 points a game, they have the number 1 overall pick, they throw for 350 yards a game, they run the ball for 190 yards per game, hold on, please, Jesus, let me get a thought out. And you want to sit here and tell me that when all of that's been depleted, that they'll be okay. They're not okay. They are not okay. When you replace the number 1 overall pick, it affects things. They're not going to be able to run the football at a high enough clip for them to take over offensively. They're not. Jake Coker, Sims, all of them were better quarterbacks than what they have on the team right now.
I don't think by a significant margin. I don't think by a significant margin at all. I don't think it's like a massive area of separation.
Jake Coker threw for more touchdowns in the SEC in 1 year than Tyler Buchner, Jalen Milroe, and Ty Simpson did in one game. I mean, all combined in 1 year.
When those guys took over, there were concerns that they could do it.
What?
When those guys took over, like it wasn't a foregone conclusion that they were going to play at a high level.
Do you not remember Jake Coker?
Jake Coker came from Florida State, and he sucked at Florida State.
Joe, he played 2, 3, 4, 5 games.
So did Tyler Buchner.
Tyler Buchner was a sophomore last year. And by the way,
he was a redshirt freshman.
You know what Jake Coker never did?
What?
He didn't look like that against Marshall.
He was at Florida State longer than that, by the way.
He didn't start that many games at Florida State.
He didn't. No, I'm not saying he did, but he didn't start and he didn't play, and he was there for a period of time.
Yeah, but when it mattered, when he started, Jake Coker went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I don't think that it is a foregone conclusion that they can't figure it out. This is my whole point, though.
Let me ask you this. Can they keep up with LSU offensively?
I'm not saying that they're going to beat LSU. That is their most glaring loss to me. I think that they lose to LSU, but they're going to beat Texas. And as I said, their schedule is favorable for them. As much as we want to say that they might have a down year next year.
They can keep up with Texas offensively? Are you sure?
I am not afraid of Texas. I will sit here and say this on this program.
The question is, can they keep up with them offensively?
I don't think it's a matter of keeping up with them. I don't think Texas scores points on this defense. I don't think
Texas almost couldn't keep up with them last year.
You think Quinn Ewers is going to put up points against this defense? You think he's going to be able to move the ball against this defense? This defense got better than last year. It's going to be better than last year.
Anybody else besides Alabama with the players that they have to replace, you would say that they have serious question marks, would you not?
Alabama does have question marks, but if there is a coaching staff and a program,
they've had question marks the last 3 years, and Saban's whiffed on all of them. Wide receiver depth, they've whiffed on. DB depth, they've whiffed on. Linebacker depth, they've whiffed on. At some point, he's got to be responsible for all of this.
But I think that this upcoming year, at the linebacker position and at the defensive back, they are in a much better spot than they were last year. Their defensive issues, I don't think, are going to be anywhere near as big.
What do you know about Dante Lawson?
Not a significant amount.
You know what else? Neither does anybody else. What do you know about their transfer from Georgia and Tresman Marshall?
They're good athletes that they're bringing
but
in.
You don't know.
Kool-Aid McKinstry is one of the best corners that they've had over the past couple of years. He's a great footballer.
Absolutely cooked by Malik Neighbors. This is what happened. He went out there against Tennessee. He went out there against LSU and got cooked.
So guys can't get cooked and get better the next year? Guys just can't get better the next year? Like, he's a young player.
You tell me that the receivers that he went against couldn't?
Those guys are gone. He was a young player last year.
Gone.
Okay, Malik Neighbors is back.
Burrell's not gone.
He was a young football player last year. You can't.
He was a redshirt junior. He's not young.
He wasn't okay, but that was one of his first years in terms of like playing a significant role in that defense.
He's a 3-year starter, Joe.
Wait, I must be misremembering. He's still. I still think that that's not a fair claim to assume that he's not going to get better.
My point is, he's not the lockdown corners that Alabama's ever had.
They can figure it out.
He's
if there's
not
a
Marlon
football
Humphrey.
team, he's not Marlon Humphrey. He has the traits to be just as good as any of those guys.
My man got cooked.
I think that there is a bias here. It's like me yelling. It's like me yelling about you. When we do the USC show, I'm going to shit on USC. I think that there's a little bit. What do you mean about what? You're an LSU fan.
I just said that they're going to win 10 games. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that a team that you believe is going to win 10 games that has highly suspect offensive production that is returning, you don't know who their quarterback is. It doesn't matter that it's Saban. If you're going to sit here and tell me that Tyler Buckner, Tommy Reese, and Jalen Milroe is going to lead them to anything that Bryce Young couldn't, you're crazy. Defensively, everybody poo-poos on Henry To'oTo'o. Henry To'oTo'o got destroyed because their interior defensive linemen got pushed around. Joe, we did an all-22 film copy on AYS. You know who had the worst run defense on their D-line last year? Do you want to know who it was?
Who?
Will Anderson. My man got absolutely clapped for 13 straight weeks when it mattered most.
When a lot of those guys are gone,
Will Anderson did not show up. And you want to sit here and tell me that Kevin Steele is better than your boy now at Ole Miss and Pete Golding.
But they have a new wave of guys coming in. Alabama has always consistently recruited in the top 5.
Okay, so now your argument is that the freshmen that are coming in is going to do something.
No. I'm not talking about the freshmen. I'm talking about the previous classes of the guys that are waiting in the wings. You can have a down year and recover with young guys when they develop. It's not like they're coming in with a bunch of 3 stars. This isn't like Michigan or Notre Dame that doesn't have a bunch of 5 stars that are waiting in the wings to take over. You can have starters from the previous year that don't live up to the expectations and then reload with guys that were developing and getting better and adding weight and grinding out in the weight room and then getting to that point of level of success. They have the bodies.
They have the athletes. That's not again. I go back.
Who's one of the best coaches about getting those athletes to
okay?
To
well,
play
hold on. That's not their standard. If this were A&M, Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee, I'd be like, okay, yeah, you got to watch out for them. Okay, I would agree that they're not them. Your expectation, though, Joe, for them at worst is winning 10 games, is it not?
I think their floor is 10 games. I think that they will win 11.
Stop. Tell me where they've gotten better from last year to this year. Name one position group.
You don't agree with this, but I think that their offensive line was very underwhelming.
Joe, I'm an offensive line guru. They're not better. They are not remotely better.
I
No, you
am
want
of
me
the
to tell you what
belief.
happened? Hold on.
Okay.
You know they gave up 14 sacks in the spring game, right? Against 2 running quarterbacks.
That's a spring game. We don't overreact to spring
Joe,
games.
you know how
Blake.
many they gave up last year in the spring game?
And I'd be willing to bet if we pulled that up and we sat here and watched through it, how much of that is on the quarterback?
No, Jalen Milroe got walked down. They walked him down.
It was a spring game.
Okay.
Also, are we not giving credit to the defensive line and their performance?
You want to make a bet?
Yeah, go ahead.
I guarantee you they don't run the ball at the same amount of clip, yards per carry, because they're going to run the ball more. They don't run the ball at the same yards per carry than they did a year ago.